It's Diamondback Kiryu with guest star Goji Thran. I'm gonna keep that in. Gojifan93 to do a unique kind of video that I don't think enough people have done. And that is everyone's done Godzilla movie tier list and Godzilla kaiju tier list, video game tier list. But I wanted to go a little deeper by doing Godzilla directors. So because I think it's important to know of like which directors did which movie. It's something I got invested in the I think 2019 or 2020 when I started to consider, who did that movie and this movie. So
Mhm.
what me and Goji fan will do is I've made a list, not a tier list in the same. Oh, and I'll be sharing my screen by the way for you.
Perfect.
Do you see anything? So
Yes.
so so the first two rows are every actual director, and the third row will be just when we get to Godzilla 98, because there was a different directors that were considered for that film. I'll just show you and the audience like a brief little like on here like their filmography, and then you say from what you can tell like, oh, that person would have been good, or like, nah, maybe not. And
Nope.
then for the Godzilla directors, I think you'll know what I mean when I say for those who have only done one movie, it's easy to just sum up like they did that one movie, so you can just
Yeah.
say briefly your thoughts on that movie. But I want you and I to kind of, for the ones who did a lot more, we can do a compare and contrast of like, while that movie was a good one, this one was kind of ass, so this is where I'll rank them.
Okay.
And what do you think of the fact that instead of S tier B tier, I wanted to do Godzilla faces?
Yeah, I think that's great. I love it. I love the shades at the S tier.
Yeah. So I'll just get straight into it. Oh wait, no. I guess what is your knowledge or expertise for the most part on knowing which director did what? And if you
So yeah,
ever considered.
I'm not a super big expert with the directors. I really it's just like obviously Ishiro Honda for the majority of them. I know very little about the other like the ones who directed kind of the off ones. So like the ones that during like the Showa era that Ishiro Honda wasn't a part of. There was the other guy, and I can't remember his name, but I know we'll talk about him.
Of
And
course.
then Heisei stuff, I'm a little, even though I'm a huge Heisei fan, I'm a little iffy with the names on that. Millennium, not really. And obviously the MonsterVerse stuff is since it's more recent, I know that a little bit more. But I'm kind of, to be honest, probably novice really when it comes to going in depth about the directors. That's why I'm kind of excited to help do this to be a guest with this because
Indeed.
I thought it
For
was kind of
you
unique and
and any audience to
yeah.
consider like, oh, the same guy did that, did this. So I'll say the
Right.
name,
So
which movies
I'll
they
learn a
did.
lot.
And I think it's all right to say, because I know you say on your channel you want to follow the algorithm of just Godzilla. I would like to, if there's a highlight thing these people did that wasn't Godzilla, shout it out, especially if you've seen
Yeah,
it.
sure.
So, okay,
Sure. Yeah.
let's move along. Ashiro Honda, the man. He
The
did
man, the myth, the legend.
1954, King Kong versus Godzilla, Mothra versus Godzilla, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, Monster Zero, Destroy All Monsters, Godzilla's Revenge, Terror of Mecha Godzilla, and then like pretty much every non-Godzilla film: Rodan, Mysterians, Varan, Mothra, Atragon, Dagora, War of the Gargantuas, all of them.
Mhm.
And you go first to say your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm also kind of looking at a screen on my own screen just to kind of help with context and all that. I mean, what can't I say that hasn't been said about Ishiro Honda? I mean, the man is a genius. I mean, there's not much more I can bring to the table when it comes to talking about him because, I mean, he just made those movies so iconic and memorable. Even if I'm not a huge Showa fan, but I still have like the highest, utmost respect for Ishiro Honda and what he did for the genre, basically pioneering it. And even when it came to like some of the non-Godzilla films that he did, I think some of those are even better than some of the Godzilla films. Like War of the Gargantuas is one of my all-time favorite non-Godzilla Toho films, and he's just again, there's just nothing but praise that I can give him, and I think his filmography, even past the monster stuff, because I know he directed other non Godzilla or like non kaiju films, which I haven't seen any of his non kaiju stuff. I probably should get
Me
on that,
neither,
but
but I know the
um,
H Man, and I believe that's kind of kaiju. I'm not sure.
yeah, I'm not sure, but
Oh, Battle in Outer
yeah.
Space. That was another one.
Oh yes, yes, that's right. Yeah, a lot of the old sci-fi Toho stuff too. Yeah, I mean, all I can say is he's a legend, and we owe everything to this genre to him. I mean, he pioneered it. So yeah,
Yeah, and I'll sum up as yeah, Shiro Honda, he's the classic. My ranking of his movies, but all of them he did a great job and had important opinions. I think he actually, for your comfort, he actually was against Godzilla becoming a superhero. He thought it was kind of
yeah, I know he was. I think it wasn't it. It was someone else that was more pointing him towards that. I don't remember if it was the producer or not, but
Tomoyuki Tanaka, yeah, something like that.
yeah.
Yeah, I would say Honda. Again, I would give him like a handshake, and it was cool to read the book about him. Like he was actually there in World
Mhm.
War II during like invasion of China and stuff, and he just felt bad when ordered or saw people have to shoot others. So he's a man who's
Yeah.
gone through a lot and very expressive in 1954. I'll just sum
Hmm.
up as my ranking of the 8 Godzilla movies he did, which no surprise that means he did the most out of any director probably ever will. Um,
Yeah.
1950, I would go Gojira, Terror of Mechagodzilla, Monster Zero, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, King Kong versus Godzilla, Mothra vs. Godzilla, Destroy All Monsters, Godzilla's Revenge. I'll We're not big fans of Destroy All Monsters, but I don't know if that's his fault. That might have been the budget or in the writing. So maybe he was just
Yeah.
trying to do whatever he could do. And Godzilla's Revenge, well, I definitely would want to ask him, how'd you go from 1954 to Godzilla's Revenge?
Yeah, that's for sure. I know that he had a lot more. There's a lot of like in-depth things with revenge, like a lot of uh metaphorical symbolism. I think the purpose of revenge was that he wanted to do something that was it was way under the it wasn't subtle, like it was very subtle. That's what I'm trying to say. Like I think that film, if you analyze it from a certain point of view, it actually probably is like a masterpiece, but it's hard to look at it because on the outside it's just this super weird kiddie movie. But I know he had purpose for that film, and I know there was a reason and a message he wanted to send to it. But I think it just overall during the end of the 60s, it just was like they were running out of budget, they were running out of time. He was probably tired of doing Godzilla anyways, and so it's just kind of
Yeah.
maybe a mix of a lot of elements that didn't make it what it could have been.
I just like when somebody pointed out, going like, the same guy did Godzilla's Revenge, did the original. How'd you go from
Yeah,
zero to?
exactly.
Yeah, but I think he gets the sunglasses, no doubt. Next is Matoyoshi Oda. Or actually, I won't do it in that voice. Matoyoshi Oda. That's better.
Yeah.
Um, he only did one movie. Well, he did a few. Looks like Invisible Man and stuff in the 50s. But we'll focus on the fact that he only did one film, and that's Raids Again. It
Okay.
shows that
Actually,
it's not a
th-
Shiro Honda.
I didn't actually know he did Invisible Man, so I think that's actually cool. That was another film I saw recently that I actually sort of
Oh
liked.
yeah,
So
well,
that's good
not
to
the
know he did that.
Universal of the 30s. I'm talking about like the
Yeah.
he did Toho Invisible Man.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh,
Yeah, the
okay.
Toho version of it. Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Yep.
Oh yeah. I'll briefly say, well, he definitely shows that he wasn't a Shiro Honda, though. I actually don't
Yeah.
hate Raids Again. I think it's okay, but I do commend he was trying to make the fight scenes of Godzilla and Anguirus animalistic versus everyone
Hmm.
else just tried to be sumo wrestlers. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I think it was just coming off the heels of Honda. It's like Toho hired him just because I don't know if Honda was not willing to do it at the time or it was just a matter of couldn't get him. I think it was they couldn't get him, so they just drew this guy in. That just more confirms the biggest problem raised again is it shouldn't have been rushed. It should have came out a year after the first film instead of 6 months later.
Oh yeah, no, it was a total rush job, and I mean, I guess I can't blame him. I to be honest, I actually thought uh Jun Fukuda. That's who I was thinking of. I thought he did Raids Again because I thought he was. I always looked at Jun Fukuda as like the off, sort of the off brand of Ishiro Honda, but I didn't know that there was a different guy doing Raids Again. So I don't really blame him. I think it was just everything. Toho just probably was like, oh, we have sequel potential. Let's make a franchise. I mean, they still did it, but like I don't know. I think if it wasn't for if Raids Again was the last Godzilla film, I don't think Godzilla would have made it. So I think
No,
I feel bad for him, to be honest, as a director.
I would put I would put him kindest in the middle or in the
I
second bottom.
I'd put him at the final words Godzilla face because it was still his job to make the film good, and there's just it's not in my opinion.
Yeah,
So
fair enough.
he's not awful, but he could have done better.
Yeah, you might be able to find out later who's gonna go in the face palm. So
Oh yeah.
so now we got Jun Fukuda. He's the guy that did Sea Monster, Son of Godzilla,
Yeah.
Gigan, Megalon, Mechagodzilla 74. So you go first.
Yeah, so Jun Fukuda is the one that I knew. He was like the second one that I knew the most, because of the 70s stuff. So, you know, I don't really care for any of his films except for Mechagodzilla 74.
At least
And
he
I
ended on
think
a high note.
I agree. I agree. That's true. Mechagodzilla to me is one of the finest Showa, next to Terra Mechagodzilla as well. But I always look at those as like a duo kind of thing. But I think, um, you know, overall he had a more silly sensibility when it came to the movies, and I think he knew how to direct monster fight scenes though, because especially when it came to
Oh
Gigan and
yeah.
Megalon and Mechagodzilla, I wouldn't really say Ibra or Son of Godzilla because I think those weren't as good in terms of monster scenes. But I think the Gigan, Megalon, and Mechagodzilla string of movies, those final battles, I mean, it's like 20 minutes almost, or 25
Oh
minutes,
yeah.
or sometimes even like the last quarter of the film is just the fight. So he did. I would praise him on those fight parts. So I'd probably put him in the middle. Probably the 68 Godzilla's face. That's probably where I'd put him.
Fitting show a face. um
Exactly. Yep.
yeah, I'll go along with that. I would almost put him higher just because he does have entertainment value, but yeah, his movies for the
Mhm.
most part are what they are. And then next,
Yep.
he has only done one movie in his whole life, according to Letterbox here. He did like one little other thing, but it looks like a lost film. So in the end, he only did like one true movie. That's Godzilla versus the Smog Monster.
Yes.
Uh, S tier. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, for me, Yoshimitsu Banno is I've as I've grown, I've appreciated Godzilla vs. Hedorah a lot more. I've always had an affinity for Hedorah. I don't know why. I just think he's such a cool monster. The concept of the film is good in terms of like environmentalists and say being green, saving the world. In terms of pollution and things. But um, if you would have told me this, if you would have asked me about him before the MonsterVerse stuff, I would have probably put him either at the final Goji face or middle of the road. But because of his constant pressuring on Toho to do something with Godzilla post Final Wars, with then doing the Godzilla 3D experiment, and then eventually getting his credit as a producer, or was an executive producer. Or I don't remember which
Yeah,
one,
I'm
but he
trying
did
to
get the
remember that. I
yeah.
think it was. I know for a fact that because he was trying to get his sequel out, which I guess, side note, if it's okay with you, do you wish
Mhm.
Yoshimitsu Banno got his sequel, or do you think it might have messed
I
things up?
I do. I do. And I think he would have been able to do a lot with a sequel, and it's a shame that Toho just kind of was like, we don't. You made Godzilla fly. We don't really like you anymore. And so I feel like that's a shame. But the fact that I feel like for him in terms of his legacy, bringing Godzilla back to life post Final Wars, that it's it's like beautiful that he was able to come back from there and be like, Toho, let's do this, and then all of a sudden make the MonsterVerse. And again, I have my opinions on the MonsterVerse, but I can't deny that the man pushed and pushed and pushed and made it happen. And so, like, I think when he passed away, like, on his deathbed, he probably was so satisfied with what he was able to do. I mean, I know
Oh
he
yeah,
wanted to do more, of course, but I think talk about a well-lived life in terms of creativity and just wanting to pursue your
indeed.
dream, like, so I would put him at the evolved Goji, just for because it makes sense.
Yeah,
MonsterVerse Goji, so it's
appropriate.
like,
Just like
mm-hmm,
the other one. Yeah, I'll save my
exactly.
thoughts just to say, or I'll just keep my thoughts simple. Of I think he was memorable in terms of. I'm not gonna go this far, but I'll say I forget if you said you're into Star Wars. I'm only partially, but one person I think someone said Godzilla versus Hedorah was the last Jedi of Godzilla movies in terms of half loved it, half hated it. Well, no, Final Wars was the other one
Mm,
that was half love it, half hate it, but. I'm like, well,
yeah,
he definitely gave a memorable movie, and it stood out from in comparison to Jun Fukuda, where all the movies are memorable, but also kind of like, same thing, different day. Uh,
yeah,
Especially of
yeah.
his later films.
I mean,
But
he had a unique style.
absolutely. And how does it feel knowing that we're
Exactly.
already done with the show with directors? Because there was only, it's funny that there was 15 movies, but there was only 4 directors. Mhm.
Right. I mean, that's not a bad thing. It kind of kept them a little bit similar to each other.
Yeah, it makes sense at the beginning, but then with the Heisei series onwards, I think they've gotten different directors because they wanted to have different what would be the word? Visions,
Takes.
takes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
different takes on them.
yeah. Anyway, this is I gotta look back at the name. uh Koji Hashimoto. He's
Yeah.
only done 2 films, Return of Godzilla and
Yeah.
Sayonara Jupiter.
Ah, okay then. Oh wait, which one did he do? It was
Return of Godzilla
because
84,
I'm
and then Sayonara
okay.
Jupiter
Yeah, that's
was
what I
like
thought.
this
Yeah.
sci-fi Toho movie. Oh yeah, and Jun Fukuda did
Oh, okay.
War in Space.
Ah, okay. I don't think I've seen that one, but well, it's funny. I know nothing about this director, even though he directed my favorite Godzilla film of all time, and I find that so ironic. Um, I guess for me, I'd be biased and I'd put him in S tier because he made 84. But like, I don't know. If it would have been interesting to see him do more of the Heisei series if he would have continued,
Agreed.
but I think for what he did, the impact he made on the franchise, reviving it in the 80s. Yeah, I don't care. I'm biased. I'll put him in S tier. That's
I
me.
don't object because I do think 84 was a pretty good Godzilla movie. These next 2 directors, I'm gonna say a lot about when it's my turn, but I'll let you go first as the guest. So yeah, just give you a heads up. I'm gonna say a fair
Mm.
thing about these 2. So Kazuki Omori did
Oh yeah.
Baalante, King Ghidorah, and then like a few little or stuff on here that if we had Japanese subscribers, it would be like, you haven't seen um TRY, and then this like other kaiju looks like Gundam. What with their like tigers like Voltron called Super Starfleet Caesar X the movie Fight Star Warriors. Looks like a mecha
Mm.
tokusatsu.
I know nothing about any of those.
Yeah, me neither. But point is, Biollante and King Ghidorah. So going off of those 2 films. Oh wait, I don't have his face. There we go.
Um, yeah. Do you want me to say, or are you
Yeah, because
still
I'm gonna
wanting
save
to
my
talk about them?
opinions after yours.
Okay. I mean, I think for Biolante, it's a masterpiece. I think for his debut into the Godzilla franchise is fantastic with it. And then he kind of went off the rails with Ghidorah, King Ghidorah, with the whole time travel stuff. Obviously, I know that he's not, he's well. I mean, it actually does say he's a writer, so he did have,
Oh
it,
yeah, my bad.
I guess, involvement in that part.
He also wrote Mothra Bow for Earth and Destroya.
Yeah, right. So I, it's kind of half and half. I would probably put him I mean, Biollante is just so damn good. So I'd probably put him at the Evolved one because King Ghidorah is also entertaining too. Like it's not like a bad film. It's just kind of
Yeah.
weird. But that's where I would put him. Is the second tier.
Yeah. And so far, I'm gonna lean towards yeah, possibly, and I'll keep my thoughts outlined smoothly. Of for me, he's one of the ones I most admire because again, yeah, like you said, Biollante I think is amazing. I think it's creative, and I think he was both a writer and director on it. So I think he gave a very
Mm-hmm.
ambitious, creative film that even my dad says of the later Godzilla films, it's one of his favorites because of how
Oh,
memorable it
see, there
is.
you go.
Um, and I do think I love Biollante. In fact, for my personal hot take, it's the only Heisei film I actually 100% love. Um, and then
Oh, okay.
King Ghidorah, it's my though I do like Return of Godzilla also. I King Ghidorah, yeah, it's entertaining. The action scenes are good, and the two Godzilla films he did had the best roar of the whole franchise. I'll say that. I'm not gonna mimic it, but with that
Yeah.
growl and stuff, which makes me think. Now I see the parallel
Oh
between
yeah.
these two movies. Is the director was the one that went keep the awesome
Exactly.
roar, and then I'm gonna poke my finger at the next guy for why'd you get rid of that awesome roar, but I don't know who did that decision, but
Exactly.
yeah, but what I don't like about Omori's later film is, the time travel's really, really complicated, and at the end, still
Yeah.
after Wikizilla did like all this trying to explain it, I still think it's rocket science in terms of,
Mm-hmm.
and you know what I think at the end of the day, I know he didn't want to do aliens, but here's my take. I wish King Ghidorah was about aliens, exilians, come to Earth, but it's like, they're running away from King Ghidorah, and then, humanity wants to help, but it's also like, you've led a deadly alien to us. Then Godzilla fights it,
Yeah.
hits its butt. Then we tackled this, if you've heard of District 9, it was a movie about these,
Oh,
like,
I love
aliens,
that
like,
film.
yeah, imagine District 9 in a Godzilla context where it's like some aliens are like apprehensive, like, like it's unfair for us. Our planet got destroyed. Now we come here. Now these humans are very hostile with us. So they're offensive. And then they decide they're going to try to take over the planet because they're desperate and then get Mecha King
Mm-hmm.
Ghidorah with their technology. But then Godzilla still defeats it. And then you have the like humans who are, split out, of course, just like in real life in District 9, there's those that would
Mm-hmm.
support them and not support them. And then by the end, it would be neat if it was unique to the Godzilla fiction of there are still a few exilians who helped out with preventing the invasion. And I know that might sound lame if Godzilla's not, he's only in it to fight Ghidorah, but I think there are some times, especially if it's once in a while, where a Godzilla can work even if he's only there just to be cool.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, what'd you think of that outline if he wrote something like that? So, it's kind of like Monster Zero,
I
but different.
I actually think that that would have been way better, to be honest. I like the thought of that plot line. I feel would have, I think, impacted the whole Heisei series way better than what the time travel stuff was.
Especially
So
Mecha
I
Godzilla
agree. I like
2,
it. Yeah,
with the Mecha King
exactly.
Ghidorah technology. And also what Kazuki Amori
Hmm.
did. I'm not too mad at him, but do you know one of the reasons apparently King Ghidorah took so long to come to the US?
No, I don't.
It was apparently because of the controversial bit with Godzillasaurus attacking Japanese, not American soldiers, and some Americans got offended
Oh,
thinking, well, Japan was kind of the bad guy, and I just had history class in college, so it's like, yeah,
yeah,
they weren't the good guys. So some people thought,
yeah,
oh,
that
is
makes
he
sense.
supporting Japanese? If I were him, I'm like, even if he didn't mean as offensive, my attitude is, well, if it's any kind of offensive, maybe you just shouldn't do it. That's
Right.
also what some
Yeah,
people
that's
nowadays
right.
making movies need to learn. If it's
I
offensive,
agree.
don't do
Yeah,
it.
true.
But nonetheless, it still would have been cool if he did some of the later films. Just, I wish I could put him
Hmm.
higher, but I still admire him. All right.
Yeah. Yep.
Next is another interesting one. Takeo Okawara. He did what looks like Reiko the Psychic Resurrected. That looks like a comedy film. Then he did
Mm.
Mothra Bow for Earth, Mechagodzilla 2, Orochi the Eight-Headed Dragon, Destroya, and
Mm.
2000.
Oh, okay. Wow. That's actually quite a resume with that.
Indeed.
I would say not bad. For the Godzilla films at least. Destroya is a masterpiece in my opinion. Mechagodzilla 2 as well, pretty decent. Versus Mothra is probably my least favorite out of the whole thing. And Godzilla 2000 I absolutely love. So really, this director did a really good job. And I think for his job to finish out the Heisei series and to start the Millennium series is pretty admirable. So I would put him at the evolved Goji tier.
Yeah. And I would put him beside Jun Fukuda because I'll say my hot take that gets me canceled by the Heisei fans. um I'll say diplomatically because I like the first two Heisei movies a lot because they had the best in terms of dark tone and a mix of
Yeah.
characters and monsters. King Ghidorah was funky, but it was memorable. Here's
Hmm.
Now right off the bat, I do love 2000 as well. That's my favorite of his. And
Hmm.
I understand that they brought him back because they wanted to. That was a case of course correction that made sense, unlike Star
For
Wars.
sure.
But
Yeah.
in this case, it was fine to do course correction. But um, I think his three Heisei films are all bogged down by small, minor personal preferences of my mind. Um, Mothra Bow for Earth at the end of the day is a movie I never cared for and just feels like a just a 90s paint job on the 64 film, which I would rather watch the
Yeah.
64 film. Though I do admit,
Yeah.
yeah, Batra's neat. Um
That's the only saving
although
grace in my opinion.
but at the end of the day the movie's just mad. Just I think he sometimes played a little too safe with just making the movie just feel like he was listening to Toho say like just make a Godzilla movie. Not a
Yeah. Have.
innovative
Yeah.
Godzilla movie, just a Godzilla movie. Mechagodzilla
Right.
2 is pretty good on the action department and some of the ideas, but just like King Ghidorah, I have a few petitions of how it could have been a little more unique. What if
Hmm.
the movie focused more on I know they probably did, but I mean, from my angle, I just remember them focusing mostly on the how do we kill Godzilla, which we would see in the Millennium
Yeah.
series a bit. I kind of
All the
wish the
time.
movie was a little more unique to show the back and forth between those that are accepting by this point that Godzilla is like more of a natural force of nature and building Mech Godzilla because like Mech Godzilla, we have to make him because Godzilla's dangerous. But then there'd be those
Yeah.
who say, yeah, but Godzilla saved the world from so far King Ghidorah. And my personal hot take for Mothra Bow for Earth is I would just find it more fun if it was Godzilla and Mothra against Batra, not Batra and Mothra. I would prefer Batra actually as just
Oh.
a villain. That's just my
Mm.
take. It was just I prefer seeing at this
Yeah.
rate. I don't need to see Godzilla and Mothra fight anymore. I don't fully
Yeah.
ship them, but I'm just like, it's gone redundant. I think Tokyo SOS is the last time we need to see it. Um,
Yeah. It's cool when he teams up with her. So.
yeah. Anyway, it's so Godzilla and Mothra in America, so that's why I thought, oh, it's about them teaming up. And then when they didn't, I was just like,
Right.
okay. Anyway,
Exactly.
but for Mechagodzilla 2, I wish they kind of got into that. Well, Godzilla saved the world. We just need to respect him. And, there's people who are against it. And then you have a couple characters, like one is getting over the grudge, one, the main villain, can't.
Hmm.
They use the technology
Hmm.
from Mecha King Ghidorah. And of course, this is kind of like, well, didn't they do this in Godzilla versus Kong where it would be at some fight when Godzilla just wants to get his baby back, but Mecha Godzilla is attacking? So, it's like, hey, that's screwed up. But for the last fight, if
Right.
he's had Mechagodzilla 2 go rogue and become more like 70s Mechagodzilla being a brutal menace that Godzilla and Rodan have to take down, I know you're going to say, but that is like Godzilla vs. Kong. And I'm like, yeah, but it would have been earlier. So it's not ripping off.
Earlier.
And besides, you didn't like Mechagodzilla in GVK, which is understandable. So how do you feel about that
Yeah.
concept in a dedicated Mechagodzilla movie?
I agree. I mean, there's so many things they could have done in these films to make them a little less generic. If they would have just taken the time to maybe, have them be a little more unique, obviously, but I agree. Yeah, I think there's plenty of things that could have been done, like what you're suggesting, that could have made him a little, yeah, more memorable,
Yeah,
stand
and
out
then
more.
the other thing about Mechagodzilla 2 is I don't mind talking about it because I know it's the movie that was made when you were born, and you were born the same year as Jurassic Park.
Yep.
So I really liked Godzilla Jr. I wish we got a few more scenes of the bond between. It was Mickey, right, in Mechagodzilla 2 because some of the girls sometimes look a bit the same. I think it was Mickey with Jr. for all three. Um,
Yeah, it was oh man, it was Baby Godzilla, then
yeah,
Little Godzilla for Space Godzilla, and then Godzilla Jr. And yeah, Mickey Sagusa was the connection with all of those
yeah,
with him. Yeah.
yeah. I wish we got more scenes with baby Godzilla to be a little more cute and keeping the optimism of some saying, "Oh, he's gonna grow up a big nasty evil," but then Mickey and ours defend like just give him the proper nurturement and he might be intimidating, but he'll probably with just the right care and honor for the Earth. Uh,
Exactly.
he doesn't need to be goofy like Showa, but he can be a
No,
badass protector. And then Destroya, we did
that's
in the video we did in December. I already said how I wish the ending was a little more epic and Destroya wasn't killed by the military. But
yeah.
I just feel like for me personally, I would put him next to Fukuda because of how they both have that thing where their movies, for the most part, were kind of melded together. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I said my thoughts, but
Yeah.
for you, well, the joke is we'll put like he's in between.
He's in between. That's great.
Or I'll crop. Yeah, why not? Unless I have to move it later, we'll find out. So yeah, there's my preference on that. So moving on,
Yeah.
Kensho Yashi no Yamashita did Godzilla versus Space Godzilla, and that's the only one he did.
Mm-hmm. Well, people know I'm a fan of Space Godzilla, and I think the film gets too much hate. So for me, I mean, it's the only film he's done for Godzilla, and the only film that I've seen from him. So I can only go off of what I've seen, and since I really like Godzilla versus Space Godzilla, I like what he did. So I would probably put him in Evolved. I wouldn't put him in S tier because I know, I mean, it's not that legendary, but I still think for what he did, I would put him in the Evolved tier.
I'm putting that back so it looks a little less sloppy for now. Uh, but I like Space. Controversial opinion. Space Godzilla is my third favorite of the Heisei era after '84 and Biollante because I just like Space
Uh,
Godzilla. He's cool. We're not doing composers, but I love the score. Um,
yeah,
Little Godzilla's all right. Mogira, I wish it was Mecha Godzilla.
Mulgear's the weakest part of the film, that's for
Well,
sure.
Gira got cooler in Save the Earth and Unleash, and he has great music
Yeah.
in. It was when they gave the Mogira, that's when he became cool. But
Yeah, that's when he
uh,
became cool.
but
Yep.
if they had Mecha God, think about it. I've always wanted to say this: Godzilla and Godzilla team up to stop Godzilla, who's kidnapped Godzilla. 'Cause
There you
that
go.
would all
That's a
be I would just find that hilarious. People can make a joke. And one person said, "Oh, but if Space Godzilla took down both Godzilla and Mecha Godzilla, then that would
Mhm.
make Space Godzilla too overpowered." I'm like, well, isn't that the
Right.
point? To hype him up
Yeah,
is so
exactly.
cool that he could take on both Mechagodzilla 2 and Godzilla. Like to me, in my personal opinion, I thought that was a silly reason to say we can't have Mechagodzilla again. Wouldn't that make more tickets?
Yeah, I'll never understand Mogira being, I don't know. Mogira is just kind of all right. Again, I think it was just put in because they wanted some kind of old Showa fan service from
Well, you
when
could have done
Mogira was first
Gigan.
introduced
Well,
back.
there's our show our monsters that I mean, the two monsters that I think most deserve to be in the Heisei series, if the Heisei series got like one or two extra movies, would have been Anguirus and Gigan.
Mhm. Yeah, that would have been, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Gorosaurus
So
probably
yeah,
would have
but
been very
Mogira's just always
Jurassic
been
Park
there.
inspired.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and before I move on, last thing I'll say about Space Godzilla is I think the only fault with it is that the effects were the cheaper looking for the 90s, like, the bit with Godzilla's
It
tail
it
kind
was
of flaking off. Oh yeah, and we forgot
it
to
was
mention.
getting
Oh yeah,
towards the end.
oh yeah, and my defense for putting him in third tier is off the slight chance if he was the guy who said, "No, we can't have that cool Godzilla roar from the last two movies. We gotta make it that."
That
For me
yeah,
personally, I'm just
not
like,
the best.
no, no. That's the biggest thing that drives me crazy about the Heisei. It's just like, why did they do that? I'll never understand. All right, Roland Emmerich. I'm gonna shout out his non-Godzilla. Well, okay. First, I'll say he made a movie that is like a fun blockbuster monster movie, and I do like it. Bit too lengthy, but good. And like you said in
Hmm.
your tier list thing, nowadays with Shin and Planet Earth, Zilla sticks out less, so I
Yeah,
do accept it.
yeah.
Um, and our shout outs you did were Stargate, Independence Day, The Patriot with Mel Gibson. I don't care for
Hmm.
2012 though. I think that wasn't for me. 10,000 BC is neat. I forgot to show you or maybe I don't have him on the I think this is just for other directors later. Never mind. Um and then he
Okay.
made Day After Tomorrow. Eh. He does a lot of the same kind of movies, and that's kind of disaster
Yeah,
films. Last two I'll shout out are
yeah.
Moonfall. If you heard about that, came out recently. That was a pretty silly movie with like saying there's civilization in the moon secretly. And
I've
then
only seen I've only seen Independence Day and 1998 with for Godzilla for Roland Emmerich. I'm not familiar with his filmography outside of that.
gotcha. The last movie I'll
Yeah.
mention is his directorial debut. I really liked called Universal Soldier, where the military was like taking dead bodies of soldiers to be like kind of cyborg zombies but look human on the outside, and one of them is a
Okay.
villain, embraces the evil programming and stuff, and then the other one, starts to regain his humanity and snapping. Very good movie. Mhm.
Hmm.
But we're here to mostly say
Okay.
where he
Oh,
ranks because of Godzilla.
yeah. I would. I mean, I'm gonna put him. I'm trying to rank him in terms of like at the time. Obviously, I know that the film has gotten more praise over time, but I don't think it's. I still think him as a director and him having the ignorance and sort of not ignorance, arrogance of I'm gonna do Godzilla this way and I'm not gonna listen to Toho and I think the old Godzilla is bad or blah blah blah. Like I I I would put him. Okay, it's gonna be 50-50. If the film has not gotten more praise over the years, I would have put him at the bottom. But because Zilla has gotten more love and I've grown to love Zilla even more in the film itself, I would put him at the final worst phase where it's like, yeah, we still don't really like you because you were still kind of an ass, but like at the same time your film has aged a little better, so I'll just put him at the second to last.
And fitting for Final Wars because of Final Wars would kill Zilla later. And I
Exactly.
swear, I actually did not plan all these coincidences, but I just like how all of these have
I
landed
think it's brilliant.
perfectly. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
give him
brilliant.
kudos for, like I said, Universal Soldier, Stargate, and did you think Independence Day was cool or just okay?
Oh, it's just 90s sci-fi schlock, really. I
Yeah,
mean, it was fine.
it's fun. Yeah, he's just an action director guy like Michael Bay. Um,
Right.
by the
Yeah.
way, Michael Bay's not on my list of people to do Godzilla. No, thank you.
Thank God. Thank God.
Yeah, I'm guessing even though you're not into Transformers, you've known that like he's butchered that series for the fans. uh,
I just know Michael Bay is just look, Roland Emmerich is the 90s Michael Bay. And then we got Michael Bay in the Millennium era. So like they both just make popcorn entertainment kind of schlock that just makes a lot of money, obviously, but there's not a lot of like substance to their films, if that makes sense. So
Right. And because of
yeah.
oh yeah, and I would say I just see Godzilla 98 as I would give him more commendability if it was just like one of those you think back to 1998, they were doing a few things where it's like they did two movies with similar premise like Ants, A Bug's Life. There's
Yeah,
these things
yeah.
called
I can remember
Armageddon,
that.
Deep Impact. So it would have been neat if we get, what if there was a proper Godzilla movie 98 and then instead of Gigantus
Hmm.
being the dub for Raids Again, that was the name of the Gigantus. And of course, you would have to change the roars because that would be too on the nose. But I
Yeah.
think if this movie came out to cash in on Godzilla, but be its own thing, that would have been more respectable. And people say, yeah, it's a pretty good Godzilla ripoff.
I mean, the last thing I'll say about it is at least he brought Godzilla back to the mainstream. I mean, if it wasn't for Zilla, we might not have gotten the Millennium series. So
Yeah,
that's why he's not at the
I
bottom.
give him credit for that too. So now we're gonna
Mhm.
pause from the actual directors for me to just give shout outs to directors who almost got the job. So Steve Miner
Oh,
wanted to do the 80s Godzilla stop motion film where it would have been
okay.
like and here's a few other movies he had done. The only ones I've seen are Halloween H2O and Lake Placid. So he's done horror movies and one good creature feature, though he did a horrible remake of a zombie movie. So, have you heard anything about the 83 stop motion Godzilla film that was going to be made, but no one wanted to make it?
I actually had no idea up until now. That is completely new information. So, okay. I don't know if it would have worked though. I don't. I feel like you the stop, especially stop motion in the '80s, like that. It was a dying art form even during that time. So I don't think it would have done anything. I don't think it would have gone anywhere.
Yeah.
So it
And
needs to
going
be a
off
man
of
in a suit
the
or CGI.
yeah, I'll assume that yeah, and I think he would have been fine, but nothing groundbreaking. But next though,
Yeah.
there was directors considered that either just turn it down because they were busy, or for Godzilla, the film that became '98. But I'm pretty sure it was before '98. It was meant to come out in like '94 and such.
Yeah, it's the whole Griffin thing, right?
Yeah. So here are some
Yeah.
directors. The legendary James Cameron, who yeah, he did well, Piranha 2 is nothing. So he did Terminator 1 and 2, Aliens, which is one of my all-time favorite movies, and then uh he's gotten pretty obsessed with Titanic and Avatar. Well, with Avatar. So if you've
Hmm.
seen any of these, what do you have to say of if James Cameron did Godzilla?
I think he's a good director. I respect him. I know not all of his movies are hits, but I think the majority of them are really good. And I think if he had his hands on Godzilla, I think he'd do a good job. Um, yeah, I think he'd respect the source material and do a pretty good job with it. So yeah, that's really all I got to say with him.
Yeah. And I'll just quickly say if it was the James Cameron of like Terminator and Aliens, I would have been like, "Oh heck yes, sign me on." He would have made with
Yeah.
Stan Winston, either director. I think Stan Winston's crew of doing the Jurassic Park movies who want to do Godzilla, they would have done so great. Um,
Oh yeah, definitely.
but the James Cameron of nowadays with all these, 3 hour CGI, um, artsy fartsy, I'm like, no, thank you. I don't need. He would make -1 three
Yeah.
hours and just have it like really on the nose of the message. So that's my
Right.
split. Tim Burton was another one considered. He did. I'm pretty sure you've seen at least one of these.
Oh, I've seen
Beetlejuice,
a lot of his films. Yeah.
Batman Returns, Edward
Yeah.
Scissorhands. So
I don't think he would have done a good job for Godzilla though. It's not his style. I don't think he would have been a good pick for Godzilla. So I'm happy it didn't happen because he's in like he needs to be the horror kind of weird stuff like that, not Godzilla. I don't think it would have worked in my
he would have
opinion.
done a Hedorah film. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, maybe I don't know. I mean, he did good with Batman, but I don't know. I don't. I just feel like he wouldn't have. It just wouldn't have been a good match.
Favorite of the stuff you saw he did? I'll put it back on the
Mhm.
there.
Oh, favorite stuff that he's done? I mean, most of his stuff is good. I like him as a director. I think he's great. I just don't think he would fit Godzilla. That's all.
Yeah, apparently it was because he was considered a Godzilla fan, so he wanted the job, but I think he was,
How
yeah,
dare you
caught up
like our
in
product to direct our product?
it. Joe Johnston, who I'll just let it speak for itself right there. I know you've seen Jurassic Park 3, maybe Jumanji and Captain America.
Yeah, yeah, Jurassic Park, Captain America. I don't recognize any of the other films. Well, I mean, I know them. I just haven't seen them or whatever. But nah, that's a pass.
My friend who loves Jurassic Park 3 would have argued he would have given decent action, but similar to Roland Emmerich, maybe not the best in terms of characters.
Oh yeah, okay.
And then, but these last two for now are um let me get the name. Oh yeah, Paul Verhoeven, who did really crazy stuff in his day, like RoboCop, Starship Troopers.
Oh
Um,
okay.
One YouTuber who pointed him out said saying the guy who did RoboCop and Starship Troopers doing Godzilla. Well, it would have been. Thank you, hun. I'm in the middle of something. uh, yeah, I'll just say in case you don't know. Well, he's a very ambitious director. He definitely has.
Hmm.
He does good with practical with CG, and he definitely would have made the characters stand out with some unique story.
I I would be interested to see what he would do with Godzilla. Yeah.
Yeah, and almost done. One of the last, oh, and then John DeBont. He's uh John DeBont was the guy that was considered to do the Griffin story, but his only real standout
Oh
films I
goodness.
think are Speed and
No.
Twister.
No, we're good. We don't need him.
Compared to Warren Emmerich.
uh nah, I don't know. I I don't yeah, I don't really recognize a lot of his or I haven't seen a lot of those films, so I mean I know about them, but I just haven't really seen them.
Oh yeah, I think he seemed like he wanted to be more respectful. Because have you seen the design of the '94 suit? Though to be fair, that was Stan Winston who made the '94 concept mold.
Yeah, I'm actually not a fan of the 94 what would have been look. I don't think it looks good in my opinion.
Well,
I
I
like it
guess a
doesn't look Godzilla
revision
like.
would have
But
been.
I know it's kind of silly cuz
Oh
Zilla
yeah,
doesn't really
because
look
of
like
Zilla.
Godzilla, but I don't know.
But
Something about that Stan Winston design is like I just never liked it. I don't know. Something about it is just weird.
fair enough. I still think the only thing I would ask for, because I've seen the '94 script and think the Griffin is cool. I think the only thing the movie needed as a revision is making Godzilla from Atlantis, and I'm like, that's too much like Gamera. So fix that.
Yeah.
That would have
Yeah.
been the trade off. Godzilla would look more accurate, but then his fans would probably have still complained in terms of the background.
Right.
Yeah, almost ready. I'll save these other two what if directors. One of them is for Godzilla 2014, by the way, in terms of my defense of uh,
Ooh.
other directors who could have done 2014. But let's get back on track as I go on. Mazaki Tezuka. He did Samurai Commando, Go Forth Godman. Those are just his two things that he had not done of Godzilla. But his three Godzilla movies were Megaguirus, Against Mechagodzilla, and Tokyo SOS.
I'll put him in S tier. Mega Gearus isn't my favorite, but I think for what he did with against Mechagodzilla and Tokyo SOS, I think overall what he was able to do, I think he did brilliant with those Millennium films. So I put him in S tier. I like him. I like his style.
Me too. I think he had ambition with story. All three of his movies have a great aesthetic to them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Best Godzilla designs. We're not talking
Yep.
about composers, but Masahiro Oshima did beautifully for all three films. Uh,
As always. Yep.
Against Mechagodzilla was his crowning achievement. I actually don't hate Mechagodzilla. I think it's all right, but just I do
Yeah.
agree
It's yeah. It's
it's the prototype to Against Mechagodzilla. And then Tokyo SOS has great action and
yeah. It
music
it
and
totally is.
overall conclusion to the duology. It just needed the same more of the same characters
Mm-hmm.
from the last movie to make it feel complete.
Yes. Exactly.
Shusuke Kaneko, who did the GMK and the Gamera trilogy, another guy who's gonna go in freaking S tier.
Um. Yeah. Of course. How could you not?
Yeah, it's the Heisei Gamera films are considered understandably the best of them all. And even though I'm not into funny enough, I haven't seen too much Japanese stuff. I know about Death Note, and he did like the first live action adaptations of Death Note, which are apparently good. So
Mm-hmm. Yep.
yeah, I think
Definitely.
it's self-explanatory. Just he definitely gave ambitious vision to both Godzilla and Gamera.
Yeah.
Oh, but here's an interesting question: would you rather see him do a fourth Gamera or have done a GMK two?
Why can't we have both?
Ah, well, backed up in a corner to pick one. I would say maybe Gamera 4 because
Okay.
I
Fine. I'd
what
say I'd say another GMK. I'd say a sequel to GMK then.
that could be a discussion for a later collab if you're interested of the doing a what would we do as sequels to these last films of the continuities, especially like GMK with
Yeah.
its cliffhanger or Tokyo SOS. Um, yeah, it would have been interesting though.
Exactly.
I heard the reason why he didn't come back, even though they wanted him to come back, was apparently because he didn't like how you know how the Gamera films they like took a little while each to come out, but Toho cranks them out once a year. Apparently, Kaneko didn't like that, so he didn't want to be caught up in that.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Now Ryui Kitamura, um, I personally again want to put him in S because of how epic Final Wars is. The art stuff he did, I'll just sum up as they're also Final Wars because all what happens in all those movies is just a bunch of epic action fighting rock music.
I mean, for me, it would. I mean, if I'm gonna have to put him in S tier because he did Final Wars. Like, I don't need to explain myself. He's S
Yeah,
tier.
I'll just sum it
Enough
up
said.
as yeah, he did such an awesome rock movie, and the other series I think he would do fine with are Mortal Kombat, and if he did Alien versus Predator, I think he would have just made them what those would be meant to be, just fun
Yeah,
action. Um,
exactly. I agree.
anyway, Gareth Edwards, who did Godzilla 2014, Star Wars Rogue One, the creator, and his first movie was Monsters, and now he's making the new Jurassic World Rebirth.
Yeah, I saw Monsters. It was okay. Wasn't really the best thing, but I'm gonna put Gareth again at S tier because the more again I just you know, people know my opinion with the MonsterVerse, how it's gone downhill, at least in my opinion. And I think that if they would have kept what Gareth Edwards started, it would have been way more impactful as a series or as a cinematic universe. And I just think what he did for Godzilla was just as big as Bono. Well, it makes sense. They were both kind of the reason that Godzilla got revived in the first place. So I mean, he's S tier. I love Gareth Edwards' way that he makes films. I think I appreciate the whole um, Jaws style where you don't show the monster until almost the end of the film, or you give little hints. I mean, the cutaways. Some of the cutaways were a little annoying for sure. Like I would have liked the airport scene to not cut away when Godzilla first meets Muto. Like I think that should have been a fight scene. But I think overall, it's just such a. The more I think about 2014, I'm just like it ages like fine wine. Like it just gets better and better. So yeah, for me, he's S tier.
I'll keep my opinions mellow. I'm putting him in Evolve because where I would put him is actually in the center. But because you put him in S, I
Okay.
felt like putting him in Evolve would be most appropriate. Because
Yeah.
2014 has its positives, like Bryan Cranston for the little bit we have him. Um, the idea of the film, of the build up, like Jaws or even Alien, is a build up,
Mm-hmm.
and Aliens even. So, but in my personal opinion, I need a good payoff for good build up. And of the times I've seen 2014, I am not personally a fan of how it's shot, pretty dark. And even when
Okay.
I
Yeah, it makes sense.
watched the movie in a dark room with the brightness turned up, I still couldn't quite see it. Um, and I do. Well, we'll get to Michael Dougherty later, but I'm just not a fan of how much there's hype up, and then I know he's in it for like 11 minutes, I think, but it feels like 3 minutes because of
Yeah.
what they. I think one person said best. It matters how what do you do with Godzilla for those minutes of screen time? If most of it's just kind of a sneak peek and stuff, it's just kind of like meh. Um,
Right.
and I just didn't care for I thought most of the characters other than Bryan Cranston and oh yeah, and I do like the scene of, let them fight.
Well,
Uh
of course.
the
That's a yeah.
Mudos, to me, they're a little bit too Cloverfield inspired. Basically, I just have the mellow opinion of I personally found the film more boring than exciting. Even in my first viewing, I unfortunately was let down. I've seen the film about 3, 4 times uh, across different points, and I don't. I personally, him doing Jurassic Park as a Jurassic Park fan, I'm just like, may hopefully he doesn't tease us the dinosaurs. It's just like have it like,
Yeah.
oh look, and then cuts away. Maybe he learned
Right.
his lesson from this. I don't think he's horrible. I'm just gonna give a shout out to say I think a director that would have done even better as an example of like, so what you want out of 2014 is you want it to be, and you got it, from your opinion, uh,
Yep.
that we want a Godzilla film that took itself realistically, had engaging characters, build up Godzilla, and then gave a awesome payoff of Godzilla. Nothing too fantasy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to give a shout out to Nicholas Meyer because while of course he's mostly known by Star Trek fans and doing these other kind of obscure films, what I like about Nicholas Meyer is he's a guy that blended epic awesome action with moments of like characters and themes. And this is an important note you might respect about him. He wasn't into Star Trek before getting the job, but he did his homework and research to get into it before doing it. He didn't just say, "Oh, I don't care." He went, "Okay, if I got this job, I should invest in the source material and then adapt it."
I mean, that's good. I respect that.
So I know I can't confirm nor deny if he would have done good. I'll just say my shout out for I think from my personal experience, he would have done a fantastic version of 2014 and not shoot it in a way where we can't see what's happening at least. And he wouldn't have he
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have killed off Bryan Cranston,
That was
so
another
abruptly.
blunder. Yes, I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then let's do let me get their names because I know it's past the hour mark, so I'll help try to get for these last ones. Hadikia, or no,
Yep.
Hideaki coupled with Kuben Shizuno, who did Shin Godzilla as like a. Oh wait, this is one of the anime trilogy. I got them mixed up. Oh yeah,
You mean
this is the.
Hideki Anno and Shinji Higuchi?
Yeah, that's what I meant. My bad. Who did Shin Godzilla?
Yeah. Yeah, I also would put an S tier. I think Shin Godzilla is a masterpiece as well. Again, this is when Toho, this is honestly, post 2014, this is when Godzilla gets exciting. Like this is when every film feels different. Every film kind of has a unique sense to it. And even though I have my opinions with the MonsterVerse and I'm not particularly excited about it, but at the same time, I also admire the fact that each film does feel significantly different. But in terms of Toho's side of things, literally everything post 2014 has been different and felt different. And I love it. And I think those two, in my opinion, they did a fantastic job with Shin Godzilla.
And I'll shout out here. Oh yeah, I know. Shinji Higuchi also did the live action Attack on Titan movies, which I think you said you're a fan of, and also Shin
I
Ultraman.
very much love those. Yes,
Yeah, Shin
yes.
Ultraman, Sinking of Japan, which I know is a popular one. And the other guy. Oh yeah, the other guy did Evangelion, which I've not
Evangelion.
seen, but I
Yep.
know it's like a Kiryu parallels, I believe.
Yeah, it's its own. Yeah, it's a huge thing. Very popular.
I'm not gonna say anything about these guys because I have hot takes on Shin Godzilla too, but I'll just say this. I respect um the message of Shin Godzilla being, about the 2001 tsunami and how the government responded to it. And I like Persecution of the Masses, that piece of music. There
Hmm.
that's all my personal positives. But I know these guys have talent, so I will not let that influence my placement. These two, however, the um Hiroyuki Sashita and Kuban Shizuno, they did all three of the anime trilogy. I'm sorry, dudes. I'm sure looking at the art stuff you did, you might have done great, but for Godzilla, you get the honorary facepalm tier for me.
I if it was my personal opinion, like tier list with them, I would put them at the Final Wars Godzilla only because I know Toho messed so much with the production on that trilogy and screwed over any potential positives that they could have gotten. And in my opinion, I think the directors got screwed over by Toho because I think their original vision was way better than what it was supposed to be, and Toho came in and just changed things up. And I
I've
I feel
heard
bad for
that
them.
one of the two it could be just, I need to look back at my research so I won't. I'll take your word for it. I heard somewhere that one of these two was like wanting to do action kaiju, but then the other one actually was going, I'm not a Godzilla fan. I don't want to be a part of Godzilla, but I'm doing this anyway,
Yeah.
for the yen. So I believe if I'm not mistaken, I think that means they clash with each other,
Yeah, I
more
mean
than
there's
collaborated.
just a lot of bad. It was just a it was just not a good production, probably behind the scenes with between two directors that probably had opposing thoughts, and then Toho messing with things themselves as a studio. I just think the whole project was just doomed to fail anyway. So it just hopefully Toho learned from it and never to do that again.
Yeah. And I just feel
So
like they go at face palm because um Braids Again at least feels like a Godzilla movie. And then
mhm.
Roland Emmerich, it's memorable. uh
Yeah, it's like it's infamous. Yeah,
and then Michael Dougherty for King of the Monsters. Oh yeah, and for his other, he did a horror movie called Trick or Treat, Krampus. Oh, that's it. Trick or Treat,
um,
Krampus, King of the Monsters.
I'm gonna be. I have a little bit of a issue with him because he is the reason that the MonsterVerse went in a totally different direction, in a direction that I didn't care for. I think in terms of him with the monster stuff, it was fantastic. I don't deny or doubt the fact that he is a fan of Godzilla, that he's super passionate, and that he, wanted to make the fans happy. But I think in terms of human stuff, human characters and dialogue
Trying
and
to be like
everything was
Marvel.
just awful. Yeah, and so I have a bone to pick with him, and I would probably put him at the final Wars Godzilla because he is the reason the MonsterVerse is in the
I won't
path that it
object.
is in right now.
I won't object because, yeah, looking
Yeah,
at the bottom of all these other, when I said the what if directors, I feel like at least one of
so
them
many
probably
more
would have
better. Yeah.
given more cooler. And then this guy was just,
Hmm.
doing fan service. Sometimes
Yeah.
fan service is
Yeah.
good, but I can name many things from other
Again,
things.
the monster stuff is great. It's just everything else about it is just not so great. So
Yeah, I would say fan service doesn't automatically make it good. I don't like it when there's people who say, "Yeah, it's good because it reminds us of old stuff," and I'm like, I'm not sure if
yeah,
that's really positive. Just say it reminds me of the good stuff.
right, right.
Oh yeah, and the oxygen destroyer was pretty forced in King of the Monsters.
It was it was so negligible. It was just like, what was the point? There was just no reason for it.
Oh yeah, then Adam Wingard, who I already would put almost in face, and I would put him in Final Wars, but I'll just quickly say he did again some basic horror movies like You're Next, The Blair Witch from 2016, which I've heard is god awful. He did the Death Note adaptation that's god awful, and then these two Godzilla versus Kong, Godzilla X Kong New Empire.
Yeah, I would either be Final Wars or the Facepalm because he not only decided to do what Michael Dougherty did, but he cranked it up to 11, and I'm like, my God, stop! Like, I don't favor him as a director. I'm happy that he is not directing the next one. I'm happy he's
Me
out.
too.
I know a lot of people are upset about it, but I'm like, no, I'm actually very happy.
I'm with you.
I
I'm
just
glad. I think two movies
and
was too much.
I think he needs to just make a Kong movie because apparently because he's so in love with Kong and
Yes.
he just does not know anything with Godzilla. I'm like,
Yes.
get out of here. You just made the MonsterVerse way worse than what it is. So,
Yeah.
but what do I know? They made a
I
lot of money
put
in the box office,
I
so
don't
I
put
guess I'm
him in
wrong.
Facepalm because at least I enjoyed some of the action scenes in both
Yeah, well that's what
movies.
I mean. Like that's all this is. It's just
Action. Which of
popcorn. We're
course,
going
why
right
do we
back to
like
Roland
Final
Emmerich.
Wars for doing it, but not these? But you said in your review how Final Wars was just a celebration to close off everything. This is Godzilla
Yeah,
vs.
it's not
Kong is
like a
not a finale. It's
no
trying to continue.
Final Wars Final Wars was not supposed to continue a cinematic universe. It was its own thing, a singular point, and that's why it was what it
Singular
is.
point.
These guys had a job to do. Oh, that's funny. These guys had a job to do to continue a universe with characters, with continuity and consistency, and failed miserably at doing it just because they wanted big monster fight. Like that's that's it. So I got nothing else to
Yeah.
say with Adam Wingard. I'm happy he's
Yeah.
out.
And then let's get to these last two. I know this guy's Ta- Takashi Yamazaki. Um
Yamazaki. Yep.
Godzilla minus one. And if I look at Ghost Book and Dragon Quest movie, oh, interesting. I know about Dragon Quest series, but I haven't played it. Oh, Parasite. Not the some Japanese movie about Parasite, and then Fighter Pilot. Oh, Fire Pilot, of course, because minus one had a lot of plane involvement. He likes
Mm-hmm.
planes, but I know he's
Yeah.
going S tier.
Oh yeah. I don't even need to explain it.
Yeah, I will say after, my thoughts have been of not the biggest fan of personally, not the biggest fan of 2014 through Planet Eater, and then King of the Monsters and the Kong films. I'm just like, at this rate, I take the dumb action, but other than that, like the I think this will make sense to you. I say I watched the movies once, then I just watch the action scenes, but never feel like watching the movies themselves again.
Mm-hmm.
um, but this guy did great with minus one, and to me, if the next movie doesn't have him directing, I'm gonna be concerned because
No, he is. No, he is confirmed.
thank
He's
goodness.
making the sequel to -1. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I look forward. I think you'll just know what I mean when I say I wish minus one and Shin Godzilla did not come out so soon after each other. I wish that like we didn't need to have two movies of just Godzilla serious and destroying I know they feel different, but I think it was justified with 84 because that was 30 years after the first one, and 32 years later he gets Shin. But this was only 7 years, and I guess
Yeah.
just my attitude is I wouldn't want Toho to just be like Godzilla only works if he's solo rampaging, so that's how we need to do every movie now. I would not
No,
like
no,
it
no.
if that's how the franchise went. Um, so
No, I'm for sure minus one's gonna have, or the sequel to minus one is gonna have another monster to fight Godzilla. I'm for sure.
Yeah. And I do agree they shouldn't get because of how silly the Monsterverse is going, they should keep it always serious. Like so I'm with on this one in terms of just let the fans in if the Monsterverse is not gonna pick up the pace, then those can keep staying Showa cheesy and then minus one
Yep.
sequels, the minus verse should be
Yeah.
all
Exactly.
about like the core themes of the best Biollante, GMK, against Mechagodzilla, Terra Mech Godzilla, all those great films. Uh,
Yeah.
in fact, I forgot to mention for the guy who did Megaguirus and Kiryu films, you think he would have done better with the anime trilogy if he did it and Toho wasn't screwing him over.
Of course. Yeah.
That was always
I
my
agree.
thinking process. Now, this last guy here, Grant Sapatua, he's the guy I'm giving a shout out because he's the guy who's working on Godzilla X Kong Supernova. His one other movie was I Am Mother, which was like I think about AI. Yeah, an AI that raises a teenage girl from youth. So we can just say
I know nothing about
speculative.
him, and I mean I know nothing about him, and I have no faith because the way the MonsterVerse is going, and now because of the subtitle of Supernova, I'm just like, oh my god, they are literally going so hard into cheese territory,
It's
and
so
I just
cheesy. You can see the
I
cheese.
don't.
You didn't.
I have a video that'll be coming out in like the next month or so, but I talk about how for me in the MonsterVerse, I just don't have any more emotional connection with it. Like honestly at this point they can do whatever they want, and I just don't care anymore. So they can get whatever director they want, they can get whoever actors, and I'll be there for the ride, and I'll enjoy the popcorn factor of it, but I just don't care anymore with the MonsterVerse. It's just lost all connection. It's going to take so much for them to like reel me back in to have emotional connection with the universe. Um, so I don't have any. I really don't have an opinion because it's just like at this
You'll
point
see the
they're
movie to
just doing
find
whatever they
out,
want to
and
do.
yeah, I'll
Yeah,
just give the
exactly. And I'll
optimism of I think that movie I Am Mother seems like it had a very interesting premise, so I'll put him in the middle for now as like prediction to say he might give us better characterization than Adam Wingard or Michael Dougherty, but we'll see if the action, gets any more cheesy. Not holding my
yeah,
breath on it, but just mild optimism. If they got Adam Wingard for the third movie, I'd just be like, "Oh, please kill me," or at the very least, say,
yeah,
"Oh, please just stop." uh, oh, and yeah, to
yeah.
get this last
I
guy out
agree.
of the way, and then we can conclude the views. John Carpenter was a guy who never was given the chance to do Godzilla, but he was a man who was popular in the 80s and 90s for a lot of creative action movies and horror movies. Um, and I'll just
Mm-hmm.
quickly say, yeah, a lot of his action movies were very inventive. Like They Live is about these glasses that can make you tell who's an evil alien or a normal person. So as they kill him, it's like you
Yeah.
look crazy on the outside, but it's really awesome. And then of course you probably have heard of Halloween at least in The Thing. Um,
Oh, no, I know about John Carpenter. I know most of these films for sure.
oh yeah,
He's a
so you
legend.
can say how
I
you
think I,
go ahead.
I think he would have. I think he would be a good pick for a Godzilla film.
Yeah, he would give him the scary angle, but also the cool action angle. I think it would have been ideal for like
Yeah.
imagine if even though the guy who did Return of Godzilla did great, if for some reason an American studio did Return of Godzilla, I think John Carpenter would have been logical.
Probably.
or even
Yeah.
Godzilla '98, because he would have given a balance
True.
of blockbuster spectacle and the
Yeah.
chilling. And he also did the music for his
Yeah.
own movies. So that would have been cool to imagine, like a cool composer and director on the same level.
Mm-hmm. I
And
agree.
we're done. So you can say any last thoughts you have about the experience doing this.
Well, I did learn a bit, so that was cool. Did not realize how many directors have actually had their hands on Godzilla. It's actually quite a lot. But I guess when you have a series that's over 70 years old, that's bound to happen. Um, but yeah, I think the list is fair, and you're the viewers who are watching. Let us know if you agree or disagree in the comments below.
Be
But
respectful.
that's all I got. Yeah, be respectful.
Yep. Um, so you have a good day, and I'll be posting this.